You know, throwing the bones is not a commonly or well accepted practice. Everybody looks at you as weird, offbeat, kind of strange. And that's okay, because you know what? I don't have experiences that are in the normal parameters of people, I reckon. And I'm going to share one of my experiences with you as I hold this identity key. You know, one time I was at home and I lived at the beach on the Atlantic Ocean, and I all of a sudden heard someone just crying their guts out. A woman crying their guts out. And it made me feel so sad. And I thought, oh my gosh, here I am in the second floor of this house and I'm hearing somebody crying. Who's crying? So I went out into the hallway and I asked my husband, I said, do you hear somebody crying? Oh my gosh, I'm heartbroken. I don't know who it is. Who could be crying like this? And so I went to the front porch to see if I could find the direction from which it was coming. And I heard the crying and I looked all around, but it was coming from the sky. This is a true story. And I heard this crying, and it was coming from the freaking clouds. It was coming from the clouds, and it was directed at me. And I was thinking, surely this is coming from the ocean, because the ocean was just in that same direction. I was looking east from the house, and I just couldn't figure out what it was. I felt so helpless, and at the same time, I just felt this knot and this pain in my stomach. In fact, I'm thinking about it right now, and it makes me want to cry because of what the situation was. So I went back inside and I was just heart-wrenched. I was gut-wrenched. I was crying my guts out and not knowing what this crying was. And I went to sit down and I just had to resign myself to not knowing what it could be. My husband didn't hear the crying. I was the only one who heard the crying. And I sat down in my chair and I just tried to deal with the grief. And my phone rang. And it was my friend who told me, you know what, I need your help. I just found my husband dead on the floor. Now her husband, oh my God, he was like a son to me. And so this grief was coming from all of us. I felt that the grief came from her, it came from me at knowing, and also I think that it came from him in the angst of his life. And no one can explain why that happened. That's happened to me a couple of times before, but not to that extent, not to that gut-wrenching extent. So when you open yourself up to messages, you have to understand what comes with it. It's a big responsibility, and there's the potential for a lot of heartache. But also, where there's potential for heartache, there's potential for a lot of joy. And his widow had to work through a lot of grief and come to terms with things to go forward in her life. And I dealt with the loss of my pseudo son, and we all just kind of got through it together. So I wanted to share that story with you because to some people this is just a form of entertainment, but for others, there's a really big spiritual world out there. And it opens up to you if you open yourself up to it. But I just want you to be warned of the realities of it, and that it's not just for fun. I want you all to have a really blessed day, and I thank you so much for tuning in to watch me throw the bones, hear how I interpret it, and every day I will give a happy solar return or happy birthday reading, which can also apply to anybody who wants to look in on it at that day. I thank you for your beautiful hearts. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.